Voice of Indonesia. EOR.
Yes, Mr. Fauchon, as the world grapples with the climate change and its implication for water, you are chairing one of the most respected organizations in this planet. So, World Water Council, or WWC. So, what is the essential of the WWC to play in participating in the sustainable water resource management and strengthening the resiliency and water equity for our global communities?
First, we may precise our role. We are a young institution, young organization, 27 years old. And we try since the beginning to be the voice of water. Because there is no international organization close to the UN system in the field of water. That's the raison d'être of the Council. Share and gather all the water community. Governments, international organizations, operators, NGOs, academics, universities, etc. We have 400 organizations which are members of the Council. And we try to provide solutions which are known in the field of the water community and to say first to the political level and secondly to the public at large, look, we know the solutions, but we need political will. If we don't have the political will, we cannot provide the solutions. That's our main role.
As you say, there should be a political will for the politicians or political makers. So how do you assess those politicians?
Dialogue. I would like to say. We meet them every time and we have to convince them. I've been a mayor in my previous life when I was younger. You have to make choice. That's the reason I was saying to other presidents in Africa, taps before guns, which means civil budgets before military budgets. That's a question of choice. What do you want for your population? You need to be able to bring water, energy, health, food, and education. That's the main priorities, what we call the Five Fingers Alliance, these 5 main issues. And so, for that, in the national level, we need laws and budgets. Laws and budgets, which could help to make water a priority. So that's our essential goal.
Okay. Before you also mentioned that WWC voices the voices, I mean, all communities' voices about water. So here, it is also a reality that in some countries we find out that there are also water industries which quotation who have or has a special rights to manage water sources in their own country. So how the WWC, say, fighting in quotation this?
You know, part of my life I have worked for public side and part of my life for private one. And what I could say that the public power is on the public side. You may work with private operators, but the decisions concerning budgets, prices, and resources has to be taken by the government or the local authorities, or I could say by the government and local authorities, not by the private side and not by the operators. This is very important. That's the reason why water is politics. if water is politics, the decision could not be taken by the economical stakeholders. It has to stay in the hands of the political decision makers and to stay a political will.
Yeah, decision makers, and we need the political will for
That's
this
very
case.
clear. That's very clear. It has not to be discussed.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Fauchon, together with the Indonesian government, the World Water Council and its member organization will co-organize the 10th World Water Forum, which will be held in Bali from May 18 to 24 this year. So
No, next year.
2024, sorry. What is the Bali Forum will be different from the previous forums because this already the 10th meetings. So what will be this Bali meeting?
That's the reason of our presence during the next days. First in Jakarta, next in Bali. We are here, the World Water Council, to listen the Indonesian water community. We are coming here with modesty and humility. And some of your colleagues ask me, what are your priority for next year? And I say, okay, we will talk in a few days after the kickoff, because during this kickoff, we need to understand what are the Indonesian priorities to save water, to preserve water, to organize water supplies. And then, for example, in 1 or 2 months, we will have a definitive program. Imagine that we arrive here, the Council, and saying to our colleagues, don't worry, everything is ready, we have decided for everything. It will not be acceptable. Mm-hmm. And so, during these days, and before, we are working together for quite 3 years with the Indonesian government. We are listening, I am listening to them to decide, to co-decide, as co-organize, yes, to co-decide which will be our priorities. And you asked me how it could be different. Mm. You know, I'm in favor of a more concrete forum. People and public at large, the poorest people, they are not waiting for speeches. Yes. They are waiting for concrete solutions which could change their daily life in the field of water, sanitation, and other issues. And so this Bali Forum will try to provide new kind of solutions, very concrete, to be able to change the life and to allow access to water for the poorest.
And as you mentioned before that, this forum will not end at the table speechless, but what are the specific outcomes to be achieved in this 10th Bali Water Forum? And that maybe would have a very great impact to the life of the community, especially those who are in the, have problem with clean water.
Yeah, specifically in Indonesia, your main problem is not the quantity of resource, it's mostly the quality of the resource. And probably, and I have a lot of discussions with your different ministers in charge. And I understand they are they are a great consciousness of the efforts to provide in the field of sanitation, yes, and to provide a better quality of water in the future. And we will try to help them as they will help us to understand some problems which are here very important in Indonesia, and to be able to transfer the Indonesian solutions worldwide. Mm-hmm. That's the spirit of the co-organization.
Okay, thank you. So my next question is, so what are the importance of 6 sub-themes? There will be 6 sub-themes in this forum that have been chosen to be discussed in the political, regional, and also thematical process of the forum.
We have three pillars in the forum, as you have said. Regional, thematic, and political. Yes. Regional and thematic are providing food to the political process. You understand?
Yes.
The politicians and the political stakeholders, they need to understand what are the priorities. Priorities have not to be decided only by the government. We have to listen to the public at large. They know sometimes more than ourselves. And I have not, personally, I don't want to mention any priority in these 6 sub-themes. I'm very attentive as the President of the Council. I'm very attentive about risk management and hydro diplomacy. Hydro diplomacy is a new diplomatic issue in this momentum for the future of water. You know, we have around 270 international basins, water basins, like Amazonia, like Nile, etc. And in some of these basins, international basins, you have tensions. For example, between Egypt and Sudan now, between Turkey and Iraq on the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. And one of our responsibility is to help them to provide dialogue, to find solutions to avoid tensions, and more than tensions, to avoid any kind of water wars.
How? How do you avoid this?
Dialogue. We have worked during quite 4 years with the Turkish government and the Iraqi government and Syrian government 15 years ago. And at the end, we find the solutions to provide an increased allocation of water from Turkey to these countries. We are working with a great discretion and again great humility between the Egyptian government and the Ethiopian government to let them understand they have to find an agreement.
Yeah, Mr. Fauchon, there will be thousands of people will expected to come to Bali Forum, Water Forum. Water Forum. How many % out of politicians, governments, officers will come to that? From just say communities who will represent, who will voice their problem with water.
Interview me in May 2024, and I could answer to your question. But we will work to have more and more political stakeholders. That's our target, to make really water as a politic matter.
Okay. So this is the last, I think. So with your own perspective, what will the new water sector look like to achieve sustainability goals?
You know, I'm very attentive as President of the Council to the future of water. Mm-hmm. What could it be? That's the reason I will discuss with your President, with your ministers, that we need to explain very clearly to the population, to whole public at large, that we have to spare water to share prosperity. We could not imagine prosperity without securing and preserving water. That's what I would like to do during my mandate, to make this water, this future of water, peaceful and successful.
One short message for our listeners about water.
Stop ignoring water.
Thank you very much.
Voice of Indonesia. EOR.